All right, everybody, it's John and Troy with the Paranormal Task Force. Back at you with another episode of our podcast, Task Force Talks.
Episode 7.
Episode 7. So what are we talking about today?
Today is the Paranormal Smackdown. It's the great debate between what is the most haunted. Hotels, asylums, prisons, hospitals. Hotels isn't really in there, but
Okay.
we can talk about that because we've done several.
Yeah, we have. For those of you watching, feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments if you think prisons are more haunted than asylums or hospitals. Let us know what you think is the most haunted.
Yeah, just in the chat, let us know what you think the most haunted places are. It can be specific locations. It can be, things that are like, just if you think it's hospitals, because, you're more likely to die in a hospital than anywhere else.
Sure.
You can say hospitals.
Yeah, some people believe that hospitals are some of the most haunted locations because of all the death that happens in hospitals. I have yet to actually investigate a hospital. I have done a prison. I've done a sanitarium, which is basically the same thing as an asylum.
And when you did the sanitarium, you got some pretty crazy activity.
Yeah. The St. Albans. St. Albans was absolutely crazy. Very uneasy, crazy activity. So, if I was going to take a stab at saying which one is most haunted, I really have a hard time with that because Nevada State Prison, I had wild activity.
You were attacked at Nevada State Prison.
Correct. So for me, I mean, I would probably say prisons are more haunted than hospitals and asylums. But again, I think I think it comes down to the location itself. I don't think you can really lump them into a category as most haunted.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, if you guys have any thoughts on that, let us know.
I mean, me personally, given I wasn't able to make it to the prison and I didn't do St. Albans with you, and we have not touched on a hospital yet, because what hospital are we going to investigate?
Well, there's actually a few that are on the list.
Okay. I'm assuming these are all old abandoned.
Yes. Old Hospital on College Hill in West Virginia is a hospital that's on our list. Harriman Hospital, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. So there's definitely some hospitals on the list.
Okay, that's fair. I'm just going to go based off of general knowledge right now and my own feelings about it. I personally think it's asylums.
Really?
Yeah. Just because, okay, don't get me wrong. People suffer in prison. We know that. But just when you look at a lot of the locations that are asylums, especially a lot of the ones that we have on our list of places to do, or in the case of St. Albans have already done, there's so much recorded suffering. Like, there's death too, but, just because someone died in a certain place doesn't necessarily mean that their spirit stays there. But it seems like, unfortunately, a lot of spirits, restless ones, are attached to places they suffered a lot. And you look back on the old kinds of treatments, shock therapy and just all the awful things that happen to people. I think it makes a lot of sense that asylums would be very haunted.
No, and I agree with that. And like I said, I personally think that it's comes down to the location, not whether it's an asylum, a hospital, or a prison.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that as well. I think trying to lump them all into one thing is more difficult. And if we're going to do that, I would say asylums. But like you said, I think it's really going to come down explicitly to the location.
Yeah, and this is a debate that I've heard people have. Prisons are more haunted than anything else. Asylums. Oh, Shell is with us. Hi, Shell. How are you today? So the topic today is what's more haunted, asylums, prisons, or hospitals.
Now, of course, that's just kind of like the kind of classic, more common debate.
Right.
But we were just saying it's really, we think it's really based on the location itself, because you've got plenty of places that are known to be very, very haunted. And I mean, they're people's old residences, you know, like old houses.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I said this is just a topic that comes up for debate, and that's why I thought we should cover it and kind of give our thoughts on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it comes down to the location itself. I don't think you can really lump it all in and say, oh, well, you know, asylums are more haunted than anything else. I personally don't believe that. I believe that there are very haunted locations in each category, and it's going to just come down to the location. Like, I mean, Penhurst was an asylum. Penhurst is uber haunted,
super haunted,
right? So but then you've got, from personal experience, Nevada State Prison, I got attacked. I caught a black mist on camera. Very haunted. So I don't really think you can take and lump them all into, you know, a category like that. Let's see. Where I live, I find it's houses that had home births in. They seem to be very active. That's interesting.
I mean, we were just saying how, like, so many locations that are haunted are, you know, formerly private residences, some of which are still private residences, like
and
Amityville.
And like she's saying, there were home births in, so kind of a hospital.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I believe there are some very haunted hospitals out there because of all the death that happens in hospitals.
I mean,
and some of it's tragic, some of it's, you know, I mean, so I mean, I can see that point.
I mean, hospitals are also very traumatic places for a lot of people. You know,
Right.
You usually don't end up in a hospital unless something traumatic is happening.
Exactly.
And it's not necessarily something that's traumatic that's happening to you. It could be a friend, it could be a family member, but you're still experiencing that trauma.
Yeah.
You know, it was like I was saying about the asylums. Like, I feel like suffering kind of breeds hauntings.
Real quick, just because our friend in the case seems to be really active with that K2 right now,
let's throw them on.
I'm going to put them up on the screen with us.
So we have our friends behind us. We only have a couple of devices on. We didn't want to turn on the REM pods because you look on the shelf back there, we do have a plasma ball, which is attempting to put out a little more energy for them to use. Last night, we did the haunted sleepover with the dolls, and we just had them going live.
Let's see. Some people believe mental health has to do with attachments. Maybe asylums would be. Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, I've been to asylums, and I think, especially when you go to a place like Penhurst, where not only did you have the physical disabilities, the mental disabilities, but you had all of the just absolute horror that happened there with the way they treated these people, you know. And a lot of these people that died there died under serious distress. So yeah, I mean, definitely Penhurst, like I said, super haunted. But does that mean that asylums are more haunted than hospitals or prisons? Not necessarily.
I think you really kind of hit the nail on the head, though. I think it's very location based.
Let's see. When you moved, I almost shut everything down. What happened? Oh, you're in the corner of the doll cam, so when you moved.
Oh, I see.
She almost shut everything down.
Just like a little.
Yeah, the doll in the case seems to be pretty active as far as the K2 meter goes today.
I mean, that was all night too.
Yeah. So now we will be going live again later today. Strictly doing some sessions with a couple of the dolls. This is actually our podcast episode, so the only reason I put the dolls up is just because she is triggering that K2 quite a bit.
And it's been like this like since last night.
Yeah.
We've done multiple things to try to figure out if something else is setting off that K2. We've switched both K2 meters multiple times at this point.
Shell said, wait, what does your wife think of having those dolls in the house?
That's
she actually doesn't mind. She's not really a believer anyway. So when I told her I was going to bring some haunted dolls in for the studio, she really didn't.
She said, whatever.
Yeah, she just kind of went with the flow. So, but yeah, so, I don't know. Shell, I mean, what would you say? Would you say hospitals, asylums, prisons? I know you mentioned hospitals and asylums, but what do you think if you had to pick one with this debate? What do you think would be the most haunted? And also, while we're waiting to see if Shell answers, if you guys notice up with Mr. Art the Clown there, I added since yesterday the autographed knife in front of him.
And that's a very real knife too, so I'm hoping that doesn't come flying off the shelf at us at some point.
It is extremely real, and it is autographed by the original Art the Clown. So
I just hear the K2 in the back.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, it's going crazy. I'm sitting here watching it on screen.
Right.
And yeah. And I think, when we go live later and we're gonna do the session with some of the dolls, we'll close her case and hopefully that'll free up the other ones to want to interact.
I got a question about that.
Yeah.
Are we gonna pull her out of the case?
No, absolutely not. I don't even think we're gonna do a session with her today. I want to try to work with maybe Leon and Rosalita and see what we get out of them. So, but yeah, so personally, like I said, because of my experiences, I've had bad experiences at a prison, bad experiences at a sanitarium. So yeah, see, Shell agreed. She said it depends on location. Like prisons overseas would be terrifying from tortured souls. Hospitals would maybe lost souls. And yeah, I agree completely. And that's the reason I wanted to cover this topic, because this debate, believe it or not, happens quite a bit in the paranormal field.
Yeah.
You have people that think, these types of places are more haunted than these types of places. And I just don't agree with that. I think it depends on the actual location, the history of the location, what occurred there. I think all of that plays into it. So I can't pick one or the other to say, oh, prisons are definitely the most haunted. No, because there's asylums that have crazy hauntings that you don't see at prisons. You know what I mean? So, any input?
Like you said, I think it's very location based. The thing is,
oh, she told you to check Discord. She I guess tried to guess for the shirt again.
We're gonna do this live right now.
Yeah, check it.
Let's see.
Yeah, thank you, Shell. Yeah, I think it's interesting.
It's not the Salute House, but that's the closest you've been yet.
I do think it's an interesting topic because, again, I've heard people have this debate, and like I said, my firm belief is that it just depends on the location. I mean, you have houses that are uber haunted. So, how can you say that one category of location is more haunted than the other.
Like, look at the Conjuring house as an example. That place is super haunted. It is a house.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, it's definitely, in my opinion, it just comes down to the location itself. But
I think there's a lot of factors that play into it.
yeah.
You know, like, we were talking about, like, hospitals have trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I know I said this earlier. I really think that a lot of this ties back to places that people have suffered
Mm-hmm.
in different ways, but I think that has not everything to do with that. I just think it has a lot to do with it.
Is the Conjuring house still going through drama right now? Yeah, actually, they've been closed down, from my understanding.
Like, completely.
Yeah, they're not allowed to do business. And the last I heard, the owner's just kind of letting it fall apart. So, I know there have been people that have made offers to her to buy the house to, be able to continue letting people investigate. And I don't know. I don't know if she's being hard headed or what, but yeah, if you've seen some of the drama, yeah, it's been officially closed down by the county or the city or whatever. So they can't do bookings or anything right now.
That's a shame, because
Yeah,
it's a location I'd really love to do.
oh, I said, yeah,
Like,
I that's one of the locations that I had on the list, but there's no way I'm gonna go there under the current ownership. So
I mean, I'm not going to speak for the paranormal community at large, but I imagine there's plenty of us out there who, if we haven't gotten the chance to do the Conjuring house yet, like, it's a location that I think we would all love to do, just because there's so much history behind it.
right. Well, and that's what I was going to say when you were talking about traumatic experiences. There's also a belief that spirits return to where they were the happiest. So it doesn't even have to be traumatic. People or spirits tend to return to where they were the happiest. So they may have had a traumatic experience in the hospital, but maybe their spirit went to their childhood home or somewhere else where they were happy.
Right.
But I do believe that traumatic death and things like that play a big part in hauntings as well, because sometimes I think some of these spirits may not even know what happened to them, and so they're stuck.
I think that's a really good point too. I think I was really tunnel visioning on more of, like, the negative
Right.
spirits and, like, bad energy hauntings, but that's a really good point, because not every spirit has negative energy. There's plenty that are good energy, they just haven't passed on.
Right. So yeah. So
I mean, case in point, as far as we know, these two are just, they're perfectly good.
Yep. And so if you're watching this later, and not watching us live right now, if you're watching this later or you're listening to the audio version on the different podcast,
Or various different podcast distributors.
yes, feel free to comment on the podcast and let us know what you think on this topic.
Yeah, this is definitely not the last time this is going to be discussed. But we would love to see just what everyone thinks on this, because I think it's very interesting. We have plenty to say about it, but I would love to see just in general where everybody kind of stands with this.
Right.
Because I think there's a lot of discussion that can be had.
Well, and again, it's a debated topic pretty regularly. I see people all the time debating it. So me personally, I don't really have a favorite type of location to go to. If there's activity there, I want to go.
I'll tell you where my favorite type of location to go to is.
What's that?
The one without spiders.
Oh my goodness. Here we go with the spiders. Yeah, so tomorrow we will be on location filming episodes for our channel, but we will also be live during the investigation.
Yes, we will.
You'll want to keep an eye out for that. And again, later today, We are going to run some sessions with a couple of the dolls live to see what happens. Let me see. Shell said, I would like to know, let me put it up on the screen so it's easier. There we go. I would like to know your two opinions of how far your beliefs go. If that's too personal, I apologize. Like, do you all believe in cryptids, vampires? Yeah. I mean, I'll throw one back at you. What about witchcraft? You know?
Can we count extraterrestrial life as paranormal?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, vampires I believe exist. I believe they're rare, but I believe they exist.
Yeah. I think
Cryptids, same thing. But I mean shapeshifters, things like that.
skinwalkers.
Yep, skinwalkers. I believe all that stuff. You know, witchcraft. I believe that's real. And I believe you have good witches and bad witches, different types of spells. Some do it for good, some do it for bad purposes. Yeah,
Witchcraft is a thing for sure.
yeah, Shell, I agree completely. With vampires, yeah, I believe they exist, but I believe they're very, very rare. I don't think they're, I don't think they're out there in the masses. I believe there's some people out there that believe they're vampires and try to live that lifestyle, but actual vampires, I think, are rare.
I think that in and of itself is a very interesting question, just in terms of like how far one's belief goes in various different kinds of entities and just I don't want to call it the mythological aspects, but if you look in history, like I don't think we have anything that's outright conclusive that, some historical figure was a vampire or something like that. But I do think that there's things that can point in that direction. I just, it really is just a matter of belief. I think a lot of people won't believe in this because it's not really out there.
Right.
And the idea of it is incredibly out there,
Well, and Shell may have just given us a topic for another another podcast. I mean, that's another debate that we could get into on a podcast. So,
right.
But yeah, Shell. What about you? How deep do your beliefs go in that? I know Troy's scared of spiders, so he's probably scared of vampires too. So
no, spiders are their own thing.
She said it's good to have an open mind, even if it's just for your own protection. I agree. I agree completely. Anybody that doesn't have an open mind with a lot of things, not just this topic, but with a lot of things, if you don't have an open mind, you could be surprised by something you don't want to be surprised by.
But I think just in our line of what we're doing, it really helps to go into different locations with an open mind,
right?
And
it's also important too, though, when we go to these locations, to have an open mind, but also a level of skepticism as well.
Right, of course.
Because just like anything else, you have people out there that will tout a location as being haunted, and sometimes it's a money grab, right? They know that people are gonna pay to rent the location and investigate it, and I'm not going to name any particular locations, but I dealt with a location that I was supposed to go and investigate, and I had to cancel at the last minute because the person going with me got injured and wasn't able to make it. And I contacted the owners of the property about, I don't know, it was probably at least a week ahead of time, and told them that we weren't going to be able to make it. They didn't offer to let me reschedule. They didn't offer to refund me any money. And I found out later on from some other investigators that they believe the location is actually a fraud, and because the people actually live in the location, in another like side of the location, and they believe that they're the ones causing the activity that people are getting. So, I mean, I don't know, but that's what I've been told.
Shell wants us to go to the Great White North.
And that's a possibility. Eventually, I mean, right now, I'm still focused on trying to, hit the vast number of locations we have here in the States, but I'm definitely open to going to Canada.
Man, I just want to go on vacation.
I will actually be in Victoria in August, but I'll be on a cruise. I won't be investigating. So. And that's probably too much information because somebody might be able to hunt me down because I'm just,
That's Papa John.
Yeah, I'm just so famous.
Get him.
But yeah, no, I'm not opposed to investigating in Canada at all. So that's definitely a possibility. I actually think I have heard of that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've heard of that. So yeah, I mean, I know you guys have some pretty good locations up there. So maybe I don't know, maybe 2027 or so we can.
I think when the Paranormal Task Force finally goes international, it'll probably be easier to go to Canada.
Right. Well, not only that too, I mean, it's probably going to cost us a little more to go there. And
right.
So, I mean, we definitely have to build up the base and continue, building up the funds and everything. Cause like I said, right now, everything we do is paid out of pocket. So we're not like some of the bigger teams that have the luxury of having their YouTube fans pay for their investigations. So, but we'll get there one day, hopefully.
As it stands right now,
she said, "Oh my God, fan meetup, please."
One of these days,
Shell,
that's the ideal.
Yeah, Shell. If we investigate in Canada, yeah, we'd definitely be willing to do a fan meetup for sure.
We can live stream that too.
Yep, definitely.
Here we are outside the command center.
And if she's open to it, maybe she'll get invited to investigate a location up there with us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a possibility too. We actually enjoy having guests on investigations. Actually, our investigation we're doing on Monday, we will have a guest with us at that location. So
I think bringing on other people besides just, the two of us, and when we can get him Uncle Chris, I think sometimes it's really helpful because you get more different energies in the room, and we can get all kinds of different activity. Like Queen Mary was a great example.
She said, "Leave your dolls home and I'll go." Yeah, the dolls don't normally go on an investigation with us. However, I have been talking about taking Leon on a couple of investigations. Just because he is a positive spirit, but his prankster energy may help on an investigation. So
hoping we can get some of that later.
Yeah, so we'll see. But if any of the dolls ever investigate with us, it'll be Leon because I've taken a liking to him.
Not this one?
No. That one is where she's gonna be permanently. Yeah.
We had the live stream going yesterday night, and I was watching it pretty much till I fell asleep in the other room. I don't think there was anything super crazy, but we did get some odd responses coming out of GhostTube yesterday. I was sitting there on my phone, and all of a sudden I hear GhostTube kind of just like bop, 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 and I'm like listening to what it was saying, and it said like irritated, angry, throw.
I'll guarantee you it was that one.
That's what I'm thinking too. At one point it said man living room, and I mean I'm staying in the living room on the other side of the wall.
Well, the loft, but yeah.
It's basically a living room.
Yeah, the way we have it set up, it's basically like a living
And well, I wasn't about to go down to the actual living room and check anything out. Are you kidding me?
Well, you know. But anyway, so yeah, so I think we covered a topic today that'll probably be debated for the rest of time. But once again, if you guys have any feelings about the topic, feel free to drop your answers in the chat, whether or not you think prisons, asylums, or hospitals are the most haunted.
Yep.
And I think we're going to
hold on before you do that.
If a doll falls off the shelves, I'll freak. Next guess. The Croak Patterson Campbell house.
It is not, but
well, hold on.
Well, actually, wait, no, it might be.
Hold on.
I read too quick.
No, that is not it.
But I mean, like, very warm.
Yeah, you're pretty warm. That is not it.
What was I gonna say?
I don't know. I was getting ready to.
Oh yeah, right. We're talking about asylums, prisons, or hospitals. If any of you have strong feelings that it's something else, or maybe you have a specific location that you think this is the most haunted location that exists. If you have a location that you think it possibly the most haunted location, like drop it in the comments. Let us know what you think.
Now, Shell, to go back to your if a doll falls off the shelves, I will tell you, 2 of them are known to move. Rosalita, which is the small one, and then the Raggedy Ann doll that's on the top shelf up there, she has been known to move her vessel as well.
As far as you know, Patty actually already has moved since you got
Correct. Here. If any of them are going to fall off the shelf, it would probably be Patty, honestly.
If she falls, I don't think she's gonna like swan dive it,
Yeah. That or she may jump on the back of your neck. I don't know.
That's not ideal. But it's good for the content.
Right?
Just as long as she doesn't somehow make it up to that first.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, Shell, you were close though. But yeah, if any of those dolls falls off the shelf, it'll be Patty. Watch, I'll say that and the damn Tiffany doll will fall.
I mean, well, maybe she moves one of the other ones.
Huh?
I think.
Is what a spider? Where? I don't see a spider, but you got Troy freaking out right now.
I'm just double checking.
Tell me where you see the spider at.
I don't know. I don't see it.
So
if I can't see it, it can't hurt me.
Right. She got you.
Yeah.
Good job, Shell. So anyway, Shell, if you want to see us do the sessions, like I said, we're gonna work with Leon and Rosalita. Keep an eye on the channel. When we get done with this podcast, we're gonna set up and get ready for that, and then we're gonna be live again for that.
Yep.
So I promise you, we're working with the positive ones. We're not gonna mess with Patty or the one in the case. So.
Well, I think the one in the case, we're gonna shut her case for this, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, but anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you're listening again, if you're listening to this audio only on the podcast,
on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcast.
If you're listening audio only, drop your comments and let us know what you think about the topic. All right. With that, we're going to go ahead and get ready to go live with the dolls. So we'll see you guys in just a bit.